I have been asked to speak on the social responsibility or role in nation making and all these things of the child accountant. So all that I need to do is, in my childhood I used to hear a small story that some student went to an examination with lot of preparation. But he prepared very well about, on an essay on cow. He went to the examination, but the question was about this guy. He went prepared a lot about the cow. So there was a huge problem for this fellow. So, but he finally managed to find a way out. He started his essay by saying that, see, we are on the ground. Sky is above. You will find lots of things on the ground, including cows. There won't be cows in the sky. But if ever there exist cows in the sky, then he wrote the essay on cow. So these are easy ways of finding solutions for people like me. I only have to link chartered accountants to nation, then my regular basic will be enough. But having said it, I don't want to do that. I was listening to Sri Venkatesh's wonderful exposition. To be honest, not to hurt him or not to demean his presentation, we have been talking about this major concern for quite some time. He would agree with me, he must have given some 100 speeches or more on this. When Jawaharlal Nehru was once asked about what form of governance would he like to have in independent India, he immediately said, I want a democratic form of governance. So then he was asked the very natural question, do you think that that's the best form available? Then he said, no, I believe this is the second best form available. And people asked, what is the first best? Nehru's reply was, yet to be invented. Since there is no other viable model available for me today, I go for the second best model. Why I am mentioning this now is, while the diagnosis of the present economic problems that very good scholars like Venkatesh do is very right, and probably, hopefully, if not 20 years, it may be 10 years, it may be 30 years, we would no longer talk about globalization. It's equally important that we should come up with answers for today. Economics is not about the past. Economic models do not live in the past. Past can give you some guidelines, show the path, but past will teach you lessons also. So, economic model has to be contemporary. It has to be about today and tomorrow, not about yesterday. Yesterday will give you some idea. Venkatesh has rightly pointed out about the savings-driven economy, including that of ours. But then Japan, as he also said, Japan is also a savings-driven economy right from the beginning, irrespective of lot of efforts by the West, like how in case of India also people like Jagdish Bhagwati, all these great economists have tried their best to convince Indian governments, that includes NDA government of Vajpayee, to encourage more spending in the country, promote policies that would encourage more spending. They could not really change the nature of our society. That's why what he pointed out as the 40% savings rate still remains. It's another matter that savings that includes corporate savings, company savings and individual savings. 30% of that is individual savings, household savings. They could not convince Japanese also to shift from their savings model to expenditure model. But savings model today led to a kind of a stagnation in Japan. Savings model has not led to continued prosperity and continued progress there. I am not saying there is some problem with savings. That's not my contention. My whole contention is each country should come up with its own model. And for one country there can be many models. I mean, I have heard from many of our Swadeshi thinkers that even in India there was never one model. Different regions based on the socio-economic factors used to have different kinds of economic systems prevailing. And definitely on one point I must disagree that at all India level, in our own system also, in our own economic model also, at the national level, at the pan-Indian level, women were never confined to picture. There were regions where they were confined to picture. But there were regions where they were the drivers of the economy. Take the case of Punjab. So, all that I am trying to say is today there is need for people to come up with new models, new ideas. You are all well versed with this subject. Models that will apply to some regions, maybe to Bangalore city, maybe to some companies. We have to come up with alternate models, otherwise what will happen is we will miss the bus once again. As he pointed out, 10 years hence, a day will come when people all over the world would say, no, globalization is not going to work. But remember that day, if Francis Fukuyama is still alive, he would come up with another theory. And that theory will become the global model again. This is what has happened in 1991 after the collapse of the Soviet model. Same Fukuyama in 93 wrote the book.
Trust.
No, end of the world.
End of history.
End of history. Now that Soviet model is collapsed, there is no more alternative before the world except the Western model. But in 2003, he changed his views. Mark me, he wouldn't mind changing it in 2023. So what is needed is for us to really come up with new models. They have to be based on our contemporary realities. How we can offer certain alternative models to the current situation prevailing in the country. That is where we need to invest our intelligence capital, our thinking. I see that as a very big challenge before our community of economists, people who are well versed with business, trade, management of money. That is what brings me to the question of what is the role of chartered accountants. You will not take me wrong if I say something a bit harsh. You know, there is a famous saying in our country that behind every successful man, there is a woman. There are women friends here, they may say, why not the other way? Other way also might be true. But if I am allowed to say, behind every corrupt man, there is a chartered accountant. Since I was asked to speak in this forum, I said I am a novice in this whole subject of chartered accountancy. So I tried to understand certain basics. I went to a website, ICAI website. And I found a mission statement which was so very impressive for a person like me. Not because of the three words that were used, financial competency, of course, good governance I understand, but I understand the way that you may not understand. And the third is competitiveness. But I am more impressed by the word before these three words. And that was, we are the valued trustees. My simple point is, how many of us, chartered accountants, understand the meaning of trusteeship? The Sanskrit translation for it is dharmakartatva. You are the dharmakartas. I'm not giving you any lecture. Your own website says that we are the dharmakartas and valued dharmakartas, valued trustees. Dharmakarta is the one who is supposed to manage the economy, artha, in the most rightful manner. Are we able to really do that? Is the first question that has to be put to ourselves. I mean, Satyam has become a very old case now. But today morning in papers, there is another case of certain confessions in Mr. Jagan Mohan Reddy's company's affairs. About management of artha, management of money, for which you are all supposed to be the trustees. There is a famous shloka in our scriptures. In fact, it is also quoted in Arthashastra. I happen to be a student of political science. I know a little bit of what is taught in that. It says, abhavova prabhavova yatra nastyartha kamayo samaje swatma rupeshu dharmachakra pravartanam. Meaning, in a society, if you want dharmachakra to run without any hindrance, that means a righteous society if you want to create, there should not be abhav of artha and kama. Abhava is scarcity. Scarcity of artha and kama. Artha is money, prosperity. Kama is desires. There should not be any scarcity in these two things. But there is another word. There should not be abundance, too much of it. Prabhava bhi nahi hona chahiye. Abhavava prabhavava. You are ensured that there is no abhav. But do you also ensure as dharmakartas that it is not going to have its prabhav? This is the duty of the dharmakarta. Mahatma Gandhi, what is very surprising is, Venkatesh would not disagree with me, that the proponents of Swadeshi in our country, the big names that we hear, none of them were economists. Mahatma Gandhi, Deen Dayal Upadhyaya, Dattopant Thengdi, Savarkar, not the trained economists, but grounded in our ethos, grounded in our social reality. That is why they came up with certain thoughts, certain ideas that we call as Swadeshi Vichar, Swadeshi ideas. So it's not just about economists or economics. In fact, it's always said to us that Swadeshi, although the major component is economics, is actually a way of life. It has to be a way of life. The duty of the dharmakarta is to ensure that management of money is to create a particular way of life. Is it only about maximization of profits? Yeah, nobody, after all, manages economy to run into losses. But if it is only about economics, it's about maximization of profits. But if it is about society, if it is a value of a way of life, then there needs to be thinking about equitable distribution also. That's why Mahatma Gandhi always used to use this word dharma kartrutva. He used to say that we have to create a value in our society, whereby every earning person in this society thinks that he is actually a trustee over his prosperity, his property, his income. He is only a trustee. A trustee means I am only here for the sake of rightful consumption of this value that I create. I am not here to consume all this. This is not just for my own well-being. This is for the welfare of my immediate community to the vast society in which I live. Gandhi used to say that this dharma kartrutva concept has to become integral in our economic thinking. That doesn't mean that you don't create prosperity. You create prosperity. Our scriptures have said that you have to earn with million hands. Shata sahasra bahuon se kamana hai. You have to ensure that every client earns with shata sahasra bahu. But Shata Sahasra Bahu doesn't mean Lalu Prasad Yadav. Our present day examples from Karnataka to Delhi. Okay. Tamil Nadu. Through rightful means. It has to be ensured that maximization of production, maximization of prosperity has to be ensured by the managers of economy. But this trusteeship, dharma kartrutva, should be the overriding factor. So how does this maximized prosperity, income, profit translate into equitable distribution also? How can we create, just now Venkatesh talked about infrastructure. Today it is generally understood that infrastructure is the responsibility of the government. Yes, the big dams, big projects like roads, highways, dams, railways, airports might be the responsibility of the government. But the education, the infrastructure, agriculture, the infrastructure, health services, the infrastructure need not be the responsibility of the government. In fact, as Chanakya says in his Arthashastra, the best government is the one which governs the least. The scope of the government should be minimized in our country. In fact, some of us who also study both the models, the Swadeshi model as well as the Western model, to understand their faults in the Western model and to understand our model, we all realize that Swadeshi as a dream can be put to reality only when you reduce the involvement of the governments in our economic management. How do you bring it down? How do you increase the participation of the stakeholders, economic stakeholders, whether it is an individual businessman or a corporate or an ordinary person who is earning more than what is required for him to become partners in this welfare scheme? That is Swadeshi. Where society runs its affairs on its own. Can the economic managers ensure that more and more people turn to this model where they create more wealth in the society, yet they don't consume it themselves. They create models where this wealth, while multiplying the wealth in the enterprise, also will lead to distribution of the wealth. It can be an equitable distribution model. After 50, 60 years of our economic development, economic growth, 9%, 8%, 10% growth and all. Today, taking Montek Singh Ahluwalia's benchmark as the benchmark for a minute, assuming that 32 rupees is enough to cross the Daritra Rekha. Assuming that such a low benchmark is our benchmark for poverty line, 38% people live below poverty line. 38% in India means 38 crores. And 32 rupees, less than 32 rupees means he is sleeping every day with empty stomach. But then the people who are your clients must be belonging to something else. Totally a different world. So the challenge is how do we distribute it? And you cannot ask only charity to be the way. Of course charity is needed. Of course you need to feed the beggar. But as it is said, don't give just one fish, teach him how to fish. But how can our industry, our businesses, our corporates practice this model? They become stakeholders in creation of our infrastructure, alleviation of our poverty. Or do we want the government to take care of all these things perpetually? No government on earth can take care of these things. From there, I will just come to the second most important statement that was made in your mission statement, which says, we are trustees of good governance. Good that nobody reads it. Today, for some time now, of course, some of these economic managers are trying to bring governments to senses. Whether it is one CAG office in Delhi or wherever. Today we have to ensure that the policies of the governments become transparent, accountable, and they are for the well-being of all citizens of the country. Now I will only give you one simple example. Today the government is going to debate the bill for land allocation to industry and the farmers. How you allocate land to industry and farmers. This bill is going to come up before the parliament. Major focus of this bill is going to be how much land can we allocate for the industry in the country. Now fair enough, one may feel that is the right way to look at it. At least you decide about some percentage, 20%, 15% will be for industry. But before that, have the economic planners of this country thought about the basic requirement of this country? 60-65% of our countrymen depend on this land for their livelihood, for their survival even to this day. 60%. Have we ensured enough land for that 60% to survive? Have we come up with that model first? Before doing that, you are actually thinking out of the available thing. You are not bothered about the 60%. You are only bothered about those 2% or 3% industrialists who want huge tracts of land. Don't mistake me, I am not against industry. In fact, I had the opportunity to study the Chinese model a little bit. Venkatesh would know much better than me. The Chinese, their free trade zones are all created on non-agricultural lands. Mostly they identified terrains which are not very useful for other productive activity for the people, built infrastructure there, best roads, best airports, best electricity facilities, all the infrastructure that is required for the industry, then invited the industry there. But here, while our poor farmers struggle for their own survival about their own lands, already we are thinking of robbing part of their lands for the sake of industry, because we are now convinced that industrial growth will drive economic growth. But can we also think of a model where industry will get its land? In India, we have only 45% of the land which is cultivable. That means you have 55% of the land available which is not cultivable. Okay, there is 16% land which is forest. Leave it aside. But remaining land is there. Yes, there is Thar Desert there. Build factories in Thar Desert. Give them infrastructure. Ask them to go there. No, but that should be very close to Bombay. Why? Because easy to ship. So for good governance also, you have to come up with new thinking, new models, where India's common man is the basis for us. How do you better the life of the last man on the street? So as managers of India's money, as dharmakartas of our money, I would appeal to all of you that we have to ensure these things in our society. That we have to make the rich and prosperous in our country to be the stakeholders in our development, to be the stakeholders in the welfare of the last man in the street. Secondly, you have to ensure that the government is not for the industries alone. You all will be lobbying for the industries or your clients with the government. That's part of your professional responsibility. But we also have to ensure that government policies do not only favor a section which is already privileged. No, don't create a situation where it is a negative situation for the industry, but ensure, come up with the models which will help the underprivileged sections of the society. Today, that is the need of the hours. And just to conclude my few words on this particular topic, let me say that we have to create large number of individual models. That is one way of achieving it. One is to think in terms of pan-Indian policies promulgated by the government at Delhi or at Vidhan Sabha in Bangalore and all. But also to think about creating individual models. A Warren Buffett. I know what many our friends would say. No, but in India we do it very naturally. We don't need Warren Buffett to come to India and advise us. Yes, I take it from the self-respect point of view. We don't need Warren Buffett to come and teach us how to manage one's own wealth and prosperity. But Warren Buffett is an example for various other reasons. If you read his brief biography, many of you might have read also. He used to go home at 5 o'clock every day, switch off the mobile phone, would not entertain any official call after 5. Just would spend his maximum time with his wife. Would come back to the work at 8 o'clock. He has developed his own work ethic also. In the company, he used to hold meetings every day. It is a different work ethic he developed. But at the end of the day, he decided that okay, 60% of my profits will go towards charity. We see one part. We see that, okay, we don't need to learn it from Warren Buffett, because throughout his career, he earned throughout the career, and at the end of the fag end of his life, he is giving away some 60%. Fair enough. In our system, we do it every week, probably every day. As was mentioned by him in his speech, we are taking care of our temples, our sadhus, our family members, that probably Warren Buffett was not doing. But he was setting an example for his country. A country which had no idea of this kind of life. So we need such examples. We have them in India also. In fact, I hear a lot of good things about people like Narayan Murthy. How they manage their funds, how they manage their economies. So we have to create innumerable such examples everywhere, where people taking care of their own community, their own welfare, people becoming responsible and stakeholders for development of infrastructure. I don't know if it is true. It used to be taught to us in our political science thing that in Mangalore area, the entire agriculture system is managed by the local people. I mean, what was taught to us was the local zamindars. They would guarantee water to every field. I'm not, again, don't mistake me for a protagonist for Jamindari system. Not that way. But society becoming responsible or stakeholders in the welfare of the country. My humble submission to you is, since you use the word karma kartrutva, whether it would be possible that this idea of trusteeship is promoted among the rich and resourceful in our country, so that they will become the important partners in our development exercise. Namaskar.